Tuperas y tuperas, today on Duke by the River, it's a 2-for-1 as we talked about. We're going to recap what happened on a midweek match, a hot, ugly one down in Dallas for Frisco, but we're going to talk about that matchup as we look ahead to this upcoming Saturday as our Philadelphia Union will be traveling to our house in the middle of D.C. And don't you dare go anywhere because you do not want to miss this episode of Duke by the River. And let's get it started, guys. Done! Duke by the River
doesn't do anything well. There is not one.
I'm sorry. There was no creativity.
As a Union fan, I take that all day.
Another DP. We need to go get Mario Balotelli. And that is right. Welcome, everyone, to Duke by the River, the show where we follow every Philadelphia. And, of course, we are brought to you by Philly Sports Network. Before we dive into today's episode of Duke by the River, ladies and gentlemen, real quick, welcome on in. Welcome back. It's been a hectic week with Union Soccer, so we do appreciate you guys hanging in with us. Real quick, make sure, if you guys haven't already, hit that like button. That would truly mean the world to us. And, of course, subscribe to El Parcero Philly's YouTube channel, as we always broadcast these live viewings through here. And if you're more of a podcaster, it's okay. We do rebroadcast this in podcast form. You can find us under Duke by the River Podcast, and you can find that wherever you stream podcasts. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's introduce you today, my expert in duping, as always with me. Please welcome Justin, Rooney Hair Plug sponsor, Friedberg. Justin, what's happening, baby?
Not much, it's a busy week. We get to talk about whatever happened in the oven that is Frisco, Texas, and
sheesh.
we get to preview the Union's vacation home in DC.
It's their second home. It's their second ground. It might as well be Union 2 Stadium if we're being quite honest here, Justin. So, but I'm excited to talk about that one for sure. Justin, I wanted to talk to you today because I about one topic in particular. I got really nostalgic here today, Justin. A little bit before recording, I saw the news of Johan Lukami getting sold off to to Italy, Bologna, and that meant the Belgium club, gang. That means that opens up a spot for Mark McKenzie to get some more minutes here. Now there is Carlos Cuesta still around in Genk, but I'm excited to see Mark. It's been tough with Mark, right? Obviously, he's been dealing with some injuries, been dealing with just the transition of playing over there in Europe, but. With Qatar around the corner, I'm be rooting for the U.S. as well. So I'm hoping that Mark can possibly make that squad, man. What do you see in we got 2-3 months here? What do you see for Mark?
I mean, at this point, you are hoping that this can give McKenzie a leg up. Because right now, if you're being honest as a U.S. national team fan, outside of Walker Zimmerman and Aaron Long, the depth spots are wide open. You have a lot of people. I mean, John Brooks is nowhere to be found. Maybe signing in Saudi Arabia. No one knows it. It's kind of all over the place.
Join David Ospina.
But someone like Mark McKenzie is in that group with Eric Palmer Brown and a number of guys that it's their window. I mean, the Miles Robinson injury opened up the depth because realistically, if Miles Robinson was healthy, it'd be Miles Robinson, Walker Zimmerman, Aaron Long, and it'd be a tough spot for fourth because you're going to be bringing 4 center backs realistically. So if Mark can get these minutes and really get a push to, start playing consistently, players have made late pushes to make rosters. It's why people are pushing for Brandon Vasquez because he's been the most consistent striker over the last few months. You have a lot of people. I mean, overall, a lot of positions are open, and center back is one of those where depth positions are available.
It's crazy, how many MLS, and it's such an important position like center backs. We have so many MLSers in that position. I feel like there in the USMNT, which is kind of cool to see, Justin. I definitely love seeing that, especially for a league that's never really invested so much in the position. But you just got some homegrown talent that really has thrived, which is really cool. And then before we went on air, I was scrolling through TikTok trying to get some inspiration going, and I see this American content creator traveled over to England to watch Southampton versus Leeds. He sat front row and he was recording Brendan Aronson right at the front row. And Justin, like, I got like the goosebumps, like, because we literally like 2 years ago were right there watching Brendan from our front row and seeing him now in Europe, dude. I had to pinch myself. Like it's like those type of moments that you just don't realize how far this club has come, man. And it was such a great moment for at least for myself, man. I got really, really happy.
Yeah, it's funny that like literally after the game against Wolves, I think that next day, I like to search YouTube and I love watching highlight videos. I'll watch MLS highlight videos. I'll watch Premier League. And one of the videos that came up was ESPN FC, and it was one of their commentators just gushing over Brendan Aronson.
Oh, that's good. I mean,
it was he just talked about all the pressures, relentlessly. He was all over the field. He was involved directly in both goals. Like, could not stop saying great things about him. And it's like, and I laugh because people are like, "Oh, Brendan Aronson." Like, it's like, listen, we all knew how good he was. We saw it in 2019. Did we ever think he was going to supplant Marco Fabian? No, no one thought he was. That's why Fabian was brought in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And next thing you know, he takes over. And the thing was, his breakout season wasn't until 2020. We saw it in the LAFC game with his goal. He was all over the field. And all of a sudden, the rumors started showing up. He started balling out. That goal against Red Bull, as soon as he had that, that's when like the Salzburg rumors came in. That's when people were like, holy shit, like we have it. And he is, he's become from a fringe player to someone who absolutely has a spot on the plane to Qatar. Like, he has become an integral member of the U.S. national team. He's become so far in only 2 games, he's become a huge part of the Leeds roster. The Leeds fans already they have been like
Jan Aronson.
They've just been gushing over how amazing he is. Like it's like, yeah, he takes off all the boxes. He gives the effort. He gives the hustle. He gets in the right positions. He's trying passes. He is trying things. He is trying to bring stuff to the offense. And it's like, yeah, this is stuff that Union fans already knew. And so the fact that this kid from Medford, New Jersey is shining in one of the biggest leagues in the world, will be shining at the World Cup. I mean, you almost feel like like a proud older brother. It's like, look at what he's doing. Look at what, like, it means a lot to a lot of fans, like, who've seen him since the Steel days, who've seen him grow up to be this player. No one expected this, but all of us are now not surprised because it's just the relentless work ethic that he has. And it's just, at the end of the day, he's ours. Like, he put some respect on Medford, New Jersey's name. The man from Medford is dominating Leeds. Let's go.
He's turning heads, man. I was there for that first goal in Atlanta, and from that to now starting in Premier League soccer. Now, I will say I did notice that the physicality, it's one of the adjustments for him that he has to make. But
he plays in CONCACAF.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Listen, he gets chopped down on a shitty field in El Salvador with no VAR, and refs looking the other way. I think he's used to that.
But even better
from James Ward-Prowse. That's nothing to to having Darwin Saren put the knee into your back.
No, but like, even in that Red Bull playoff game when Brennan was here in 2019, dude, they were physical with him, and Brennan just kept getting back up, and that made him stronger. And then he obviously developed into the player he was in 2020, and obviously off to lead. So he's gonna get through that curve, man. It's just the Prem is a different world, and as we all know, Justin. So
it is, but you know what? If anyone's gonna conquer it, It's going to be the Americans. I'm just saying, like, Brendan. Next thing you know, it's Paxton. Next thing you know, it's Jack McGlynn. I mean, listen, we could have a whole Union homegrown starting 11. Listen, I mean, as even though I'm a Man U fan, my ultimate goal would be to see Jesse March with a mostly MLS roster win the Premier League, because then and only then will you hear a collective of all the Euro snobs' heads blowing up.
You
just
didn't
a collective shock and awe.
You didn't hear the latest from Fabrizio? It's they're gonna hire Jim Curtin as the manager. They're gonna go sign Christian Pulisic and Serginho Dest, and they're also gonna bring in Paxton Aronson as well. They're gonna run a little bit of a 4-2-3-1. They're gonna go back to that. Pulisic's going back on the wing, dude. Man U's coming back to glory with the stars and the stripes, brother.
Listen. I mean, they're not gonna get relegated, but man, it is tough. So I'll take Serginho Dest. Christian Pulisic isn't coming, but I'll take someone over Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
I'm sure he wants to go to Man U. He's a Man U fan.
I mean,
who the frick wants to play with
he'll start there. I think realistically, Pulisic needs to get starts. He needs to get minutes, and he's not going to get it at Chelsea. If you want a rusty Christian Pulisic, you can keep him at Chelsea, but that's not going to work, right?
Justin, give me all the Pulisic versus Ronaldo beefs in the dressing room. I'm here for it. I want problems.
No, listen, Ronaldo needs to fuck his way right off that roster. I do not need that man anywhere near the roster anymore.
Just go to the Galaxy already.
He had his moment, and I loved his first go around. He did not need to come back.
Yeah, man. A little nostalgia. That's what happens. Positive Philly with the great transition over here. What was that last night? How do we lose 1-0 to Dallas? And he gives Positive Philly. I'm proud of you. Positive Philly's been converting himself into a soccer fan. He's now a 5-for-5 fan, trying to get a little bit in the Premier League. He got the right terminology. 1-0, my dude. Dallas sucks. It doesn't matter what sport it is. Dallas sucks. It's probably because we weren't at the Super. That's also a very good take too. We're not the same away from the Super. Justin, I'm proud of Positive Philly, man. Good shit, brother. Good shit, man. All right, well, Justin, let's move on. Let's talk about this match, because on the midweek match down in Dallas, you're coming off the good win against Chicago, but we did know when we talked about this, we gave everyone the heads up. It would not be easy walking away with points away from Dallas. And so for Jim's lineup here, he went with a little bit of a surprise, not really. Back to the 4-4-2. Well, continue with the 4-4-2 diamond, but he went back to the usual starting lineup that we saw a lot for the early parts of this year. Harriel back at the right back position, giving him Baez a little bit of a break. And then the controversial part for some Union fans, Leon Flock and El Brujo Martinez starting in the midfield. Flock at the left, Brujo at the 6, Ali at the right, Gazek at the tip of the diamond. And a move that I actually did like, he put Corey Burke up top with Julian Carranza to start off this match. Now, first half, it really did feel like the Union looked keeping up where they were against Chicago, had some nice opportunities. They were obviously keeping up with the tough weather. Dallas kind of got a momentum shift, and they kept stretching the back line, kept taking some nice shots. And in the 34th minute, Jesus Ferreira, I mean, oh my God. Why do this to me, Jesus? Why do this to me? It was a nice pass by Paul Arriola. Jesus with a one touch, and just off of a millisecond, just gets the shot off. Gets Jakob Glazes and Andre Blake by surprise, and it's 1-0 there for Dallas. And in the second half, unfortunately, the Union just did not bring the gas to Dallas, and they only had really 2 good shot opportunities in the second half. Dallas really were the best of the 2 teams. Velasco had a couple nice opportunities. Unfortunately, Corey Burke, who started the match, left in right before the end of the first half. Mikel Uwa started for 45 minutes. Had a couple nice opportunities. You saw Jim, put out 6-7 attackers out there, and it's just still the Union could not find that goal. You saw the low block by Dallas, but Union could not break that down, and unfortunately, a little bit of a disappointing one, a 1-0 loss to Dallas. But Justin, Dallas isn't the Dallas team of last year. This is a third-place team in the Western Conference for a reason. Playing in Frisco, it is always tough. It was hot as, excuse my language, Pops, but it was hot as balls, all right? and of course, like the history, Justin, like we've never won here. We never won in
draw.
Pizza
One
Hut.
draw.
All right, we had one draw, whether it was Pizza Hut, Park, or Toyota. I don't know what it was, but we've never gotten 3 points down there in Frisco, Texas. Justin, what was your takeaway from last night's L?
It's not surprising. I mean, we talked about it. I said 1-0 victory. It could have been 1-1. I mean, listen, outside of the goal, Dallas did not have a lot of opportunities. I mean, it came off a brief moment. Ferreira gets that ball gets pounded in. That was a hard cross. Ferreira takes a quick touch, and people will say, "Oh, Glesnes should have done better." You know what?
That was world class shit.
In that moment, I don't know of any defender that is in that moment at the step over is getting to that. I'm sorry, but that's a goal scorer's goal. And I don't love Jesus Ferreira, but you know what? It like that is what goal scorers do. He only needed that moment and he did it. Now the Union had chances. Don't get me wrong. They had plenty of chances. They were for probably the entire second half, they were pounding and pounding and pounding and pounding. They were truly creating chances. And you know what? It was also 100 fucking degrees. It was also a midweek game. I mean, listen, this is your first loss against legitimately a top 5 side. Your other losses, you lose to Toronto, who was struggling at the time, on the road, all on the road. You lose to Chicago, also struggling. You lose to Cincinnati, not a top 5 team, but a team that's desperately hanging on to a playoff spot. And now you finally lose to a top team on the road, which people are like, oh, and I saw some of the dumbest takes I've ever seen. And I've seen some dumb takes. Like, oh, Jim Curtin can't beat a top 5 top coach. Like, this is the first loss we've lost against a top 5 side in either league. We beat NYCFC twice. We've tied the Red Bull. We've tied Montreal. We've tied,
LAFC.
We've tied LAFC. Like, it's
different LAFC, but still a draw.
But like, legitimately, again, all on the road. This is on the road. The Union, at this point, outside of an MLS Cup final, aren't going on the road in the playoffs. So, like, I keep saying this. The Union at home are a different monster. Going into Texas, into Houston, into Dallas, a spot where historically, like I said, we've had one draw. I'm not all that worried. It was not a pretty game. It wasn't the Union's worst game. Cincinnati still by far is probably one of the worst games of the season. But this is also a team that, again, the NYCFC lost to Charlotte. I mean, I watched that game. That was not a pretty game either. So you were in a position where you're still 5 points above Montreal. You're 6 points above NYCFC. You have a point this weekend to get 3 points. You have, 8 games left? I see no reason they slip out of the top 3. And at this point, you should be able to hold on to 1 or 2, and you will get home games throughout most of the playoffs until you hit the MLS Cup finals. So the Union at home, I will back them 9 times out of 10.
It's very, very, very true. I wanted to ask you about the back line here. It hasn't been the most consistent play as of late. They're obviously still really good, and obviously what Ellie made the All-11 again this past week before the Dallas game. But I have seen them when it comes to front lines that have great movement, great off-ball movement as well, some good speed, like what we saw last night, Velasco, Ferreira, and Areola. Dude, the speed is freaking ridiculous. Or when they go up against a Vasquez and Brenner and Luciano Costas threading the needle. Does that concern you at all going forward? Go with some of these attacks that have been able to stretch out the back lines?
No, because again, a lot of these performances have been on the road. And while this team, there's been some offenses that have been able to pull the Union apart, the Union defense has held together for the most part at home, and they've been able to put together results at home. So, again, at the end of the day, the Union are an absolute force at home, and that's where I expect them to be come playoff time. So like, it's a different animal, and yeah, but the thing is like outside of one chance, like don't get me wrong, Andre Blake had to make some saves, but the offense didn't have as many chances as people like. Like, oh my god, they got up. It's like no, yeah, Andre Blake had to make a few saves, but the defense. I mean, the Union held possession for most of the second half. Like Dallas late made double and triple subs to fortify that back line when they knew they had to submit. And you know what? The Union were still creating chances. They still were that ball was squeaking in. They were getting to the loose balls. I mean, Martin Paz had a good game. I mean, sometimes in those things the ball doesn't bounce your way. It is what it is. I am not worried. This defense is still the league's best by far, and this is a defense that will easily help keep this team at the top of the conference.
Yeah, listen. It's funny because the more and more as these weeks go on, like I'm just thinking about, hey, I think I'm bored with just being that number one seed because just how dominant they are at home. It's not a completely different team, but it's a step above. I'm definitely starting to agree with it. Did you have any problems with the starting 11? I did see some gripe over some of the selections by Jim.
The only frustration I would have had would have been El Brujo, and I think you knew he was coming back in, but he definitely pushed. I mean, he eventually got a yellow, but he was pushing that line for a while, and any other ref on any other day is giving him his marching orders. So but that's the thing with El Brujo. He toes that line, and you know that's what he's always going to do. Unfortunately, I think he's the only one because I thought Nate had a decent game. I mean, Velasco's cutting in. There's not a lot he can do. You know, Nate's coming in.
Yeah.
Like,
Got him,
I mean, Nate did a good job. It's not his fault he gets pulled. It's the fact that, if we're honest, Olivier provides more going forward. And,
Yeah.
I mean, by, the 85th minute, you went full. Like, I mean, you pulled off most of your defense. And you had the ball in there for over almost 15 minutes. And you know what? The Dallas defense held strong, which you can't really say most of the time. So, listen, hats off to Dallas, not hats off to Jesus Ferreira, as my father and I always say. Why the hell is he scoring so much for SC Dallas, but he can't hit the broadside of a barn for the U.S. national team? So, you know, it frustrates the hell out of me that he's the one that scored. But hey, I mean, you know, blind squirrel finds a nut every day, right?
I don't know what it is, man. I wish I knew. I definitely do wish I knew there, but it was definitely interesting. That second half altercation, the Gazdak foul on Paxton Pomacall, which ensued that was a funny one. I do like appreciate like the Union don't ever. And that's how you have to play. That's the mentality you have to play with. They never back down from any situation.
That was the most fuck this moment I've ever seen. Like, and Daniel Gazdag is not that does not typically get that frustrated or that angry. But I think, listen, in that heat, in that moment, Pomical was being a smartass all game. And honestly, I knew it wasn't more than a yellow, but it was a worth it yellow. Those are one of those like, listen, the next time he tries that shit, and you saw Pomical was a little more hesitant on trying some of that shit. And you know what? You play. And listen, I don't love Nima Sagafi. I think he lost control on a few moments, and I think there definitely could have been a little more control from the refs. But as Jim was caught saying from the very hot mics, near the. I mean, they caught a lot, but Jim goes like, We're gonna call nothing. There's gonna be 200 yellow cards in the second half.
Dude,
Like we said it in the group chat. I'm like, did Jim Curtin just say that? It's like,
I love Jim,
but
man.
it's like it was honest because the refs were like they were foul, 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 foul. It's like, okay, like where's the yellow? Where's the yellow? And then in the second half, the yellow cards just blew up. It's like you get a yellow and you get a yellow. It's just like, come on, Sagafi, like get your head out of your damn ass.
It was almost as good as the bit in Portland where Julian gets the yellow and he's like, because you can't officiate my match, my man has to miss the next match. And that was
exactly
that was great, dude. It's freaking awesome. I'll say I want one more point about El Brujo. One thing I didn't understand was Dallas did a really good job with that. They did their version of a high press, and they did put Glesnes and LA through some tough spots. Like I would have wanted, and I didn't see it enough, and I'm pretty sure it was Danny that pointed it out, that Brujo needed to drop down more closer to the back line so that they can get that ball out of there and find a way to get out of that press that they were bringing on there. But I mean, other than that, it was just a good play by Dallas overall.
It was so that thing. I first of all, I don't understand why, and Zach made a good point in our chat. I don't know why Brujo thinks he's Neymar dropping that deep for the ball. Like I understand he's the 6 in front of but he should not always be the one on the ball. I think the Union, they were trying to take advantage of, and they nearly did on a number of occasions where Pomical and Leggett were pressing high. That left the defensive mid all alone by himself.
Yeah, man.
There was a big amount of space between the defensive mid and the center backs.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Carranza, you saw his shot that Paz had to paw away in the first half. Those are the kind of opportunities that the Union should have been taking more advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
But again, with Brujo, and people talk about his passing. Oh, it's so great. He did not have a great passing game this game. And I think that is starting to be the trend more. And while he brings a lot in terms of breaking up the play, it feels like he's the one now lacking a bit going forward.
Yeah.
While Leon has been the one actually improving on, because Leon isn't having to shoot. Leon's just being that runner. He's crossing the balls in. He's being an additional Kai Wagner and just crossing the balls in, being closer, feeding the ball. He's doing what he needs to in tight. He's not trying to force these passes. He's letting the playmakers do that. And I think that's what Brujo needs. Brujo needs to do less. And I mean, some of the best players are players that you don't hear their names because they are just quietly going about their business. And Brujo, unfortunately, does not have that. He puts his stamp on the game one way or another.
Yeah, man.
Sometimes it's good. A lot of the time, sometimes it's bad, and sometimes it's just you don't know because it just feels like what is going on right now. And that's unfortunately that's how he is.
In a sense, for me, it's kind of like Jamiro, like because sometimes I feel like El Brujo likes to do a little bit of showboating, and that's when it just pisses me off as well. But I understand what you're saying. And to Positive Philly's point, and this is something I did want to bring up as well, I'd have to say it was awesome to see them on NBC Philly starting to give the Union the respect they deserve. It's about damn time. When was the last time we were on NBC Philly? Do you remember?
I don't know, but
it's like before 2016.
I was genuinely glad because, so I have Hulu Live TV and I have ESPN Plus. So typically for away games, I get the away feed. So it was nice getting JP and Danny. Like, I appreciated their commentary. Like, that's what I want more of. And at this point, listen, the Union are still the best team in Philadelphia right now. Why not give them some damn more respect?
Facts, man. Everyone who watches this YouTube channel knows I'm ready for the red and blue October with the start of Eagle season, dude. October is gonna be buck wild, Justin, and I hope you are ready, sir. But ready. Yes, look for me, Justin. Like it helps with the validity of this team in the city because we all know NBC Philly is the hub for Philly sports in the city, and it's definitely cool. On a night where the Phillies were on earlier, then you got the Union at night. Like it just truly felt like we were part of what's going on in the sports world, sports scene of the city. And seeing Danny and JD having their smiles there, Now, obviously, don't want to enjoy it too long because obviously we'll be on Apple TV soon enough, and that opportunity probably. Well, I wonder if they would do like every now and then, like one match in the summer. We'll go back on NBC. I wonder how that would work, but I guess Apple TV will control it all for us, so we shall see. Please explain to me how come ESPN Plus the Union game is blacked. I'm sure he's saying blacked out in my area, but I get to watch NYCFC. Like, who wants to watch them? What the F? Justin, you want to take this one away? This fun explanation. It's like Tam and Gam over here with the same explanation.
Tam and Gam are easier to explain. I legitimately don't know. Like, no, I've had it where like I remember there were times where like Red Bull games, it would be blacked out on my ESPN Plus on my TV, but then I'd pull it up on my phone and I'd get I do not understand the blackout rules. It legitimately makes no sense, which is why I'm so glad for Apple TV because there's no blackouts. Like, and also it again helping that for season ticket holders, it'll be free. So for me, that'll be easy. And again, the seamlessness of having not just domestically but internationally, the MLS will be more steadily available.
Yeah, I
think it's again, people said it's a boost for the league, and it'll also make all this blackout bullshit a thing of the past.
Yeah, it is quite honestly ridiculous. Justin, they have a question for you. Are you, sir, a 5 for 5 Philly sports fan?
Is that a fucking question? Like, what are we? Is this amateur hour? Are we children's playtime? Are these jokes?
Hey, we do have to ask because remember, our boy Zach is a Cowboys fan, so we do need to ask these questions.
Oh, I am born and bred everything Philadelphia. do not question that with any ounce of doubt. I am Philly sports through and through. Always have been, man. Always will be.
Even the Fusion, even the Wings, and even the Firebird. Shouts to Adam doing a great job with the Firebird.
Unfortunately, I got eliminated. I rep it all. Let's go.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. All right, one more point that I want to talk about before we get into DC. Just help me understand as like a non-USMNT guy, Justin, what is with these like USMNT bot accounts that are just telling what our team should be putting out there as far as selection goes? Like, you know me, like I don't have that rooting interest in the USMNT, so I don't need to see Paxton and Quinn and Jack all the freaking time when with the players we have in front of them. It's remarkable with these dudes, man. Like they don't understand. Like we have to win games.
Listen, U.S. national team Twitter is one of the worst places to exist on the internet. I legitimately don't get it. Jack McGlynn's the only one I could see like, okay, pushing for more time because there's a question about El Brujo and you would probably be moving, Leon to the 6. Paxton, like, I hate to break it to most of U.S. soccer, but Paxton Aronson is not starting over Daniel Gazdag right now. Daniel Gazdag,
who scored against England? Who?
Like, Daniel Gazdag is in insane form. I do not understand these people that are screaming for him. Quinn Sullivan, again, getting decent bench minutes. Like it again because people see this Dallas game and like, oh, the Union are a joke. Like it's like it just frustrates me because when it rains, it pours with this shit, and like it wasn't even that bad of a game, and yet people are already like losing their shit. It is the reason that as someone tagged me on Twitter late in the morning and says, Twitter gets me so mad. At Union Nut 26 is right. Gotta stay off Twitter a couple days after a Union loss.
Facts.
I have been very vocal about not being around Union, around Twitter on game days. And after losses, I try to stay away. It's the same bullshit time after time, and it comes out more when they lose. Which, oh, by the way, we've only lost 4 times this year out of what, 26 games? Like I do not get it. it blows my mind that people blow this out of proportion all the time. And but yet that's where that's where we are. This site is, anyone can use it, so
Like
it is what it is.
I couldn't personally see myself as a Colombian soccer fan, like wondering why clubs like Millonarios or Nacional don't put their young players out there. Like I don't have that Colombian soccer, like that Colombian national team hat on. Like I understand, like those clubs need to win, need to put their best starting 11 out there. Like I don't know why that isn't like common sense as a soccer fan, but you do you, boo boo. At the end of the day, we're gonna just hoist the MLS Cup and party down Broad and down Chester. So, amen to that, brother. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on now, because what better way, coming off of a bad loss, well, not bad, but, a loss that's kind of sucked against FC Dallas, than to head back over to the East Coast and face off against a club that we know very, very well in DC United. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today, to help us preview the match, we have on an interview that we pre-recorded with the great Cheyenne Foster, a.k.a. Between Clean Sheets, who does obviously a great job not only highlighting her own club in DC United, but U.S. soccer in general. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome Cheyenne and enjoy the interview. All right, Dupetas now joining us here on the Dupe by the River guest line, an old friend to the podcast. Please welcome the lovely Cheyenne, a.k.a. Between Clean Sheets. Cheyenne, how you doing, girl?
I'm alive.
That's all it is, girl. That's all it is. I know we'll talk about your club. I know it's been difficult, but it's important that you are live watching this, because DC United needs you and the fans need you.
Yes, I actually I remember at one point before Hernan started as the coach, I used to joke offline to friends that watching DC United sometimes felt like a favor. And when Losada came, like, things as bad as they were on paper, and the fact that we obviously didn't make the playoffs last year, it was still an enjoyable team to watch. And unfortunately, after he left, I haven't been able to say that yet.
I hear you. We'll definitely get to all that. But Shine, as always, we haven't seen you in a while. How are you, girl? I know you're busy traveling. We just talked about the miles you've been racking up. So what's new with you?
A lot of things. I actually started my own podcast.
Hey,
I know,
like
right? My first guest was Jen Munoz, a former Club America femenile player and fellow Southern Californian, just like myself. And the conversation was great. She referred to it as therapy, which made me feel like I was doing my job. But I've got a bunch of other guests lined up that I'm super excited to talk about.
Is this like a soccer in general type of podcast, or
Yeah. So we've discussed the what Between Clean Sheets is before. I think since we last spoke on your platform, I've been able to better clarify what it is that I would like to provide. For me, I definitely want to show the fan experience, which you mentioned racking up miles. I went to MLS All-Star in not Philadelphia, in Minnesota, and I'm currently in Los Angeles. I saw DC at LA on Tuesday. I'll see Seattle Sounders at LA Galaxy tomorrow. And I really enjoy giving people the visual of what it's like to show up to these places and just embrace everything that's there. But more than that, I think that there's a personality that is really lacking in American soccer. And I'm not saying I'm filling it with my personality. I don't think everyone wants to see mine. However, I want to have human conversations with people in the industry. And so whenever I pitch my podcast to different teams to talk to players or different individuals to come on, I call them human interest pieces, because I think what you do is really, really good, and you're really, really good at it. I am not the kind of person that can talk tactical analysis and that sort of thing all day, every day. It's something that personally exhausts me, and it might just be because I'm a female in this space, and so I feel like I have to do 5 times the work in order to be taken just as seriously. But I do think that I am very emotionally intelligent and in tune enough to bring the personality out of people when I have conversations with them. So that's
No,
what I'm attempting.
that is very, very important. You know, starting this myself, like I felt the same way. Like when I looked at the soccer landscape of it, like because when I started content creation, I was only doing NFL and NBA stuff, but soccer was always obviously a love of mine, being Colombian and growing up with the sport. But
Right.
I took the step back and I looked at, wait, Copa 90's making content over here that people are loving that's about American soccer. I'm seeing more and more soccer creators coming out. So that's what made me want to get into it because I looked at Philly, there wasn't really a lot of personality. There's people making content, there was writers, there was podcasts, but there's no one really providing that person that I love to do all the time. And it's very, very important because Cheyenne, like this is still the people don't understand, like we're still like in our infant phases as a league,
Yes.
right? And as a brand in this country and in the world and worldwide. So it's important for, content creators. That's why I love supporting other content creators in this league because we're all kind of in the same place and we're all kind of rising together. Every time I even meet up with the Cooligans, like they understand it as well. It's why they're so, they're willing to work with other content creators and it's definitely really important.
Right, right. And I think I said this on another podcast that I was fortunate enough to be able to join in Cincinnati, that I think MLS is trying to be not putting the cart before the horse. I definitely think we're growing in a good way, but we are trying to be a lot cooler than we are. And I think that embracing kind of the weirdness of it all is something that we have to step up and do. And I think Philadelphia, we can get into it as we talk what to expect for the weekend. But Philly is one of those teams that the league is not going to give the kind of attention to that they would to LAFC, to Atlanta United, et cetera, because you're not that like new, sexy, shiny object. However, the product on the field is that, and it's good soccer. The thing is, if the league's not going to do it, we have to do it. We have to talk about Philly. And I definitely, to drive this point home, should say I drove up to both of the Union's postseason matches last year against both Nashville and NYCFC. And I loved that experience, but of course it definitely wasn't going to get the kind of coverage beyond simply the broadcast. It wasn't going to get the kind of coverage that MLS gives to other teams. So I just wanted to watch good soccer, and my team didn't make the playoffs. So.
It's funny because like I make this content and for the majority of it, like I do it so that Philadelphians can see what they're missing. But then I like think about it, it's like, well, okay, maybe it's all the rest of the MLS what Philadelphia is all about because like what you said, the term that we say here, no one likes, we don't care. It's real. It's really real. So we definitely like to live by that. But John, let's get to your soccer team because I'm dying to know about one thing and one thing only. The return of the great savior Wayne Rooney, as you once touted on your great platform there. What's it been like having Mr. Rooney back as a manager now?
It's been weird. I should say that his departure was also weird. He left before his contract was up. This was what, 2019? I honestly can't remember at this point.
I think it was before COVID.
Yeah, we ended up finishing the regular season having drawn at home against Cincinnati, who were definitely still in their wooden spoon days or era, and they were down 2 men, which required us, because we required us to travel on the road to Toronto for our first playoff game. And we lost that game, and Rooney immediately left. He did not come back to the States. He left from Toronto to England. He's like, goodbye. I have already accepted this position. And I have no intention of returning. There was obviously conversation about his family not enjoying being here. And to come back, I think it was a very weird storm where being at, and I'm gonna butcher it, but I need to let everybody know I'm on West Coast time. I just woke up. My hair is a mess. I can never remember if it's Derby or Derby that he coached at. I think English people are freaking weird.
I'm sure Britt Heads will tell us what it is, so it's all good.
Right. I'm like, congratulations. You've got weird words for things that don't matter. But anyway, so he had been in a weird situation where he was coaching them in and out of relegation, and under the table was rumored to be providing extra money to make ends meet for the players on the team, which is just such a very kind thing to do, by the way, but also technically not legal. So I think it was a perfect storm of him just maybe not having the options he thought he would in England, and then realizing that DC United was willing to pay him money up front that I don't think he had gotten during his playing contract, which this is a very long-winded way of saying, I don't understand why he's back. I'm okay that he's back. I think we definitely paint the picture. I'm sure you guys remember that 7-0 loss at the Union is the catalyst for his arrival. And I'm not going to thank you. But I am going to say that that's just the way that it worked out. So it's been a very interesting, I guess what was that, like the second weekend of July? It's been a very interesting 5 weeks.
Yeah, it definitely has. And then of course, here in Philly, Jim past couple of years has been known as, like, I guess, the manager Grim Reaper. Essentially, he's been having a lot of managers fired after playing the Union, and then we wonder, is Chad Ashton really getting fired in this instance? Like, he was just the interim, so it's kind of a weird circumstance there.
Well, and I was on the field, to brag for a moment. I was on the field for our at LAFC on Tuesday. I had a content creator friend with a fantastic hookup for some seats that were right next to the visitors bench, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. And I felt like Chad Ashton was yelling at people just as much as Wayne Rooney was. So I thought, this doesn't really feel different. He's still here. He's still coaching. So obviously Rooney has the pull to get a lot of these new guys that we've been able to sign. Unfortunately, Benteke is not available for the game this Saturday. But we've got Ravel Morrison, who came over from Europe for Wayne Rooney. I know this was a very quiet signing since everything's been so chaotic, but we got Miguel Berry from Columbus Crew. Yes, and we've let some people go that weren't working for us, which has been nice. And a lot of things have happened. I feel like I've definitely been drinking from a fire hose in terms of DC transfer news and shakeups for the past several weeks. So
Tom Boog bombs is for you got those notifications from Tom Bogart?
I don't. For my mental health. I also feel like I have to, and I love Tom. I had a chance to meet him at All-Star, but he works for the league technically. Okay. So to me, I'm like,
that was confusing to me for a little bit, but
yeah, if he works for them and he's breaking the news for them, I feel like I definitely probably already heard the rumor from some DC local individual, or if he's breaking it, it's probably done. And I just need to know that when I show up to Audi Field on a Saturday or Sunday that it's there. I just need to let it wash over me. I had this conversation the other day that someone was like, why are people so riled up about what the possible lineups are going to be for the men's national team during the World Cup? Just let go and let God. And I'm like, I will, because I have no say. I don't have time or the energy to freak out about this. I'm just going to show up and let it be. Like,
well, at least
at least
you don't have USM coming your club because they're not starting Paxton Aaron over Daniel Gazdag or Jack McGlynn over Leon Flock every single match. Not understanding that we have a team, we're trying to win matches here, not try to impress USM&T fans. So disrespect, we all love them here, But we're trying to win some soccer games here, guys.
I don't care about those guys. I said this. I will piss them off, and I don't care. I feel like almost every prominent USMNT prospect or like rumor, gossip, news update Twitter account is secretly run by like a 14-year-old kid.
More than likely.
Yeah, from his parents' house, who definitely has played FIFA, but hasn't played soccer like past the age of 12.
I love that.
Yeah, I have that theory. Other than Yank Report, who I loves, and he's also behind, to give a complete shout out that is not necessary, but he's behind.
I did see that. I like that.
Yeah, the Sis 76 apparel company. I'm pretty sure this shirt is on sale next week, and because I've done such a good job of taking some very aesthetically pleasing Instagram photos for him, he sent me this t-shirt. So
let's go.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back to DC here, Cheyenne.
Yes.
I wanted to ask, so what is the ceiling? What is the expectation for Wayne Rooney Part 2 / manager job?
When he first touched down in DC, I know that there was a comment made from him about definitely making the playoffs. Since then, we have lost all but one game, and the game that we won was Orlando, which I think that was like a storybook experience. As I'm sure everybody knows, Wayne Rooney has just absolutely dominated Orlando when he was a player, and so to have that dramatic comeback as his first match coaching was amazing. But since then, we've made some very, I would say, some great progress, but it hasn't shown with results. And like I said, we're still waiting for Christian Benteke to start for us. And I think there are a lot of pieces still coming together, but we're starting to see teams clinch their playoff spots right now. I don't think that we're going to be in a situation where DC United is going to be able to clinch theirs from how low on the table or in the table they are. So I think at this point, the expectations are that he will help us survive the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think for realistically for DC, I think next year making the playoffs is definitely realistic. I when I watch you guys, I do like the pieces you guys have in the attack. But obviously, not just the 7-0 game, but I think defensively you guys have some miscues that could be shored up during the offseason. You guys are without Bill Hamid too, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, so I didn't even mention Bill Hamid has been injured for a long while.
Right.
The replacement that we have
Romo
is David Ochoa.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
So Romo has been not great.
Yeah, I know.
Us. So it was great to get a replacement, and David Ochoa made his debut on Tuesday and actually did quite a fantastic job. So your point about the defense, though, is correct. And for this weekend's match specifically, we're out with our center defender, Steve Birnbaum. He got a red card in the match on Tuesday. So what we end up doing there is TBD. Honestly, I'm just hoping for like the home field advantage. The fact that you guys might be tired from the travel. I don't know. So we'll see.
It's funny because I think the last time we were in DC, I think you guys beat us, if I'm remembering correctly.
I hope so. It's the least we could do.
So that'll be interesting to see. It's so funny. David Ochoa, one of the most controversial American prospects, playing in nation's capital. There you go. There you go.
I'm kind of okay with it. I think I have a lot of friends that work for various teams. This did not come out of Real Salt Lake, I should say, but I have a lot of friends that work in the Western Conference for different teams, and they have talked about David Ochoa's lack of maturity is how I'll phrase it. And to me, I think the way that people described Chad Ashton in this interim era this year, and also his interim era when Ben Olsen was fired in 2020, is as a guy who brings the locker room together. And respectfully, I don't care how toxic the locker room is. I just want some games where we get 3 points.
Right.
I just want
Exactly.
to see some, I just want to see some wins. And I know Hernan Losada had his quirks, we'll say. We'll put it very politically correct, maybe. But I just feel that we weren't as a team pushed as hard as we could have been until he came around, and maybe he pushed the team a little bit too hard. Obviously, there's a correction there that needs to be made, but this like consolation prize of having a good locker room atmosphere and having guys bought into a coach that just isn't cutting it was not something that I was enjoying. So maybe David Ochoa has matured a little bit. Getting him out of his environment in Real Salt Lake was great. And for those of you guys who don't, those of you who don't know, he just wasn't even on the bench for Real Salt Lake. He wasn't even training with the team. He was just,
It's at that point.
on an island by himself. And at one point, a couple weeks before he ended up being transferred, he made this information public with his own video. So that right there in and of itself is drama. But I should also tell you, DC United is not drama free. So we can't be holier than thou in that respect. Julian Gressel was unceremoniously transferred, told he was going to Vancouver, and after having the conversation with our coaches and managers and president, he left the field, or left the office at Audi Field, to go let his wife know. And his wife had already been told, because Stephen Goff from the Washington Post had already tweeted about it, and family friends of theirs had already contacted Mrs. Gressel, which is just the most embarrassing thing. Yeah, and he's made his feelings about that publicly known. So to me, I'm like, I mean, clearly we're signing Ochoa for a reason. We don't really care about the drama. So
we embrace it here. Welcome to DC MTV United. Let's go.
Give it to me. Give me the ridiculousness. More so like real world.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm gonna ask. So now that Rooney's here, how have the tactics changed, or what is it looking like going forward here? Obviously, you guys got a clear number 10 in Morrison, and what is it looking like now these days?
So Jackson Hopkins, a young guy, academy star for us, has been playing a lot under Rooney, which I really appreciate. I know that there are a lot of teams and coaches who, I know you don't have this problem, but a lot of teams and coaches who don't give their kids as much time as I think that they deserve. We've also, I definitely think, have worked more on our midfield and up top than we have on the defense, which I know we've talked about is something that we're lacking. But Ravel Morrison, I think, has been super helpful in bringing like a better tempo. We've got, well, of course, I forget his name. I want to say Martin Rodriguez, who came from Turkish league. He's from South America. Has been great in bringing some speed up and down the wing for us. I think we're still definitely trying to fill some holes. Ola Kamara, who was a Golden Boot contender for us last year, has not been starting. And I definitely will give a shout out to the silver lining of the darkest cloud, which is Taxi Funtas. Has done an amazing job in spite of all of the odds. So I will say those are like the pieces that we've been putting together and have been connecting relatively well. When we played LA, and honestly, when we played New England, like I said, we're making progress, and the progress is we're not allowing 7 goals during a game.
I did notice that. As a kept the goals allowed down a little bit.
Thank you. Yeah, that goal differential I don't know. I will say though, a couple weeks ago, this is more about my fan experience than it is tactical analysis, but the day that we, as a league, broke the record for the most goals scored in a single game, like 57 all day, I was present for the one match of the entire day. The one match of the entire day that did not have a single goal scored on it. And I wanted to cry. We had hosted the Red Bulls at Audi, and not a single goal was scored. It was the most boring freaking game. And I remember coming home because, of course, when you're at the stadium, you miss everything that's going on. Then I'm just like settling into the rest of my evening. And then I see all these tweets like, most goals scored. This is insane. A 5-4 game, a 4-4 game, another 4-4 game. And I'm like, I didn't see a single one of those. I don't even think we had a shot on goal until like the 70th minute. I wanted to cry.
Oh, lovely DC.
We got a point though. We got a point. So
there you go. There you go. One more quick question here.
Yes.
What's Benteke's role going to be once he's fully arrived in DC?
Oh man. So my understanding of who he is as a player at Crystal Palace was as a player at Crystal Palace is not as comprehensive as I think it could be. I do know a lot of fans were really pissed that the move happened, which is to say, in general, they just don't feel like MLS deserves him as a player, but maybe they also looked at DC and was like, of all the teams, which I get. But I understand that he's a playmaker and that he actually is a guy who, like Wayne Rooney, obviously very different style of player, but I honestly, any European player that comes over, you could put Zlatan in that category. Any guy that comes over and regardless of the team, will score some goals and have some beautiful passes and shots and things that we're just not seeing. He'll bring like the pretty side of soccer to the team. And that's, Wayne Rooney did that when he was here. Was he in the best shape of his life? No. Was he helping the team produce results week in, week out? No. But we do have these great highlights that we keep showing 4 years later of beautiful crosses, of goals scored from the half line, of just some of these things that like polished soccer that we haven't seen at DC United in a really long time. So
should be fun. It's listen, doesn't ever hurt to have some depth. So we'll see what that kind of looks like here for D. Yeah, there you go.
Yes,
we'll
that's another word.
Like. Something DC could use for sure.
Do you like my long-winded answers?
No, we appreciate it. Obviously, listen, we don't watch DC often here in Philly, so we like to get all information we can get on these clubs that we don't watch. So we appreciate it. All right, let's look at Saturday now, Cheyenne. So what could this lineup look like for DC, potentially formation and the starting 11?
Oh, man. That's a really good question because Steve Birnbaum is out. I think that will require, I don't know, Donovan Pines.
Are you about to suit up for at center back? Or
It's funny, when I play like rec league or co-ed, I end up playing defense a lot more than I ever have in my entire life simply because I am out of shape. So I could. I would just be working a lot harder than I'm accustomed to. That's a really good question. I think we have options, but I don't know precisely. I definitely think that we'll have 4 at the back as we have been having, which is purely to stop the onslaught of goals that are to be expected from a team like Philadelphia Union. You're welcome for the compliment. But I really don't know. I do know David Ochoa will definitely start in goal. I think that he proved himself worthy of that starting position. And I do also think that Taxi Funtas will start. He started on I don't think he started on Tuesday, actually. It's really hard to speculate. We've shifted around. Our formation has stayed the same. I'll say that. Our formation has stayed the same, but I'm not entirely sure who will start. We don't have a ton of injuries that we're working with from last game, but I will say actually here's a good option. I'm gonna make you sit on this podcast while I Google what the lineup was the last time we played you guys.
Okay.
And we're gonna count just how many guys are no longer a thing.
Are you saying since the last Union matchup?
Yeah.
Oh my
Which
god.
of course my computer's going so incredibly slow.
Obviously Burn Bomb is not going to be in there.
Heinz is out with a season-ending injury. Brad Smith is out with a season-ending injury.
Yeah, he suffered in the Union match too, which I really fell for that one.
Yeah.
And poor Hines is getting like just worked on by Mikel.
So that could happen again. Please don't let it happen. That would be very nice if you didn't. But yeah, like I said, of course, this is taking forever. I'm trying to think of who else there was. We just let Michael Estrada go. I don't think he was playing that match anyway.
Really?
From playing hardly at all. Yeah, we ended his loan early, which I think was for the best.
Okay.
Julian Gressel, obviously gone.
That's crazy. It's not too
My
long
will
ago.
to live gone. The collective mental health of the supporters for DC United gone.
Oh my god.
Wayne Rooney he's here. So yeah, everybody, I'm in an Airbnb which has decent Wi-Fi, but my computer must be just as tired as I am. So
that's all good. You can never rely on that too much, but it's all good.
Yeah. I think I answered though. That's pretty decent. And I will say I was not. I think we talked about this. Was planning on coming to the game in early July and ended up having to go to Western Pennsylvania for a work trip. So I was watching my tweets and texts roll in, but I ended up trying to catch up with the game in the second half. And after that, I was like, I don't need this. I don't need this in my life. So,
nobody ever needs that in their life for sure.
Right.
That's definitely tough to watch, but hey,
yeah.
things will get better for DC. What do you see as your prediction for this match on Saturday?
Well, it depends on what your lineup is. If I had to guess, though, I think I could see us scoring, and I could see a draw if we hold on. We're not gonna defend well, but I think we may score well.
Okay.
So let me say like 1-1.
1-1 draw.
Yeah, everyone gets a goal.
You get a goal. You get a goal. All right.
If we get another 7-0, I'll leave. Although, actually, I should say I won't be there.
Okay.
I'll just turn the TV off because, like I mentioned, I'm in LA. To get back from the West Coast to the East Coast is just the rudest thing. You're like, oh, there goes a day of my life. I'll never get back. Just sitting on an airplane. So
I'm not looking forward to it. I'm going to Arizona for the Eagles in October, so I'm not looking forward to that flight.
Yeah, but that'll be fun.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for the trip, just not the flight.
Right. I still have yet to go to an NFL game.
Really? Well, I wouldn't recommend your hometown team because FedEx Field's kind of a dump. But whenever you want to come up here, we'll go to an Eagles game together. You can see how crazy they are.
Yes, I will say, the World Cup host city selection committee also agreed is it because DC was not selected. Even when we combined our bid with Baltimore and offered M&T, I think that's what their stadium's called.
Yeah.
Then they're like, No, thank you.
Yeah,
Actually,
your boy Pablo was not happy about that.
honestly, I met him in person for the first time at that event.
For the first time?
Yeah, he's not a huge fan of mine. I'm not a huge fan of his, mostly because I think he's a great work, does really, really great work online. I'll always give him that. But not the most dynamic dude in person. And given the kind of like beef that we had on the internet, it just was even sillier when I met him and he didn't make eye contact with me.
That's I think that's like the writer's code of conduct. I feel like they're all kind of like that. They just kind of
Yeah,
lack like social cues and social skills in general. They make good work.
you said it. You said it. There's another phrase. It's like paper tiger. You're real cool on paper. You're real cool online. I'm real cool in the real world. I'm not cool online. Sometimes I look at my stuff. I'm like, who are you?
Who is this person? Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Cheyenne, listen, we as always, we appreciate you. You know, you're always a dear friend to the podcast. But listen, we hope that DC doesn't drive you crazy. We want your beautiful head of hair still on your head there.
Too late. Yeah, I was gonna say, if anyone's watching this, I washed my hair last night and then immediately went to bed. This is what my hair looks like when I do not brush it or blow it dry. These are bangs. If you couldn't tell.
Yes, educate the men that are listening to the podcast.
And if anyone, I know you guys are all East Coasters, which bless your heart, but if anyone is familiar with the theme park, Knott's Berry Farm, I am going to Knott's Berry Farm today all by myself.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I grew up in Southern California, and Knott's Berry Farm was like my childhood theme park. Oh, for anyone in Pennsylvania, it's kind of like Kennywood, only not as rickety.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah, so that's where I'm going today. And I went to the beach yesterday, and I'm just trying to enjoy a vacation with a little bit of soccer sprinkled in, and I look forward to watching the game on TV on Saturday. So
living your best life, Cheyenne. We love that for you. We absolutely love that for you. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big thank you to Cheyenne. And Cheyenne, thank you so much for coming on in here, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I miss you.
I miss you too, Cheyenne. Ladies and gentlemen, Cheyenne, aka Between Clean Sheets. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much to Cheyenne for coming on in, giving us the input from DC. And I guess, Justin, what I have to first ask here, man, this has to be like at least like a 2-0, 3-0 win, right? Is that what we're thinking here in DC?
I mean, my ultimate statement was a 3-1 victory. Like I appreciate her optimism, but their defense is still trash. Like,
yeah,
and with the bird bomb out, they still have an attack, but their defense is still bad. And Ravel Morrison ain't gonna save that defense. And like, listen, it's not gonna be 7-0. No game's gonna be 7-0, but it's gonna be 3-1, maybe 3-0. There's gonna be goals. I don't think DC's gonna score a lot of them.
Yeah, I just think that this is like this is the type of opportunity for the Union to put away what happened Wednesday in DC, and then in Dallas, and just take it out on DC. Essentially, anything you kind of want, like those little things you want to, just test out. Jim wants to get creative. This is like the type of match to kind of do it. But no, I mean, I expect them to get some early goals and just kind of just put them away early on. That's kind of what we all anticipate. But
I'm just picturing. I don't know if you've ever seen The Water Boy, but the scene where the kicker lines up in the championship game in the bowl game and finds the guy and goes, "Oh yeah, there's my bitch." That's gonna be Mikel Uwa lining up down the pines. He's starting going, "Oh yeah, I remember you. Remember me? You were on the ground for a lot of it."
Yeah, man. And like when I go back to that 7-0 game, I really felt like Allie's play really got the energy going. And once they got that first goal, and that was a beautiful goal by Allie, like everything just kept like avalanching right on DC.
Yeah, and I mean people talk about the last time the Union were in DC, but the prior time to that, I mean, if y'all remember that first goal, Ali running with a beautiful, again, another left footer, running to that corner Mike and calling out the chicken shits in Congress and going, "Hey, do something about gun control."
My captain.
Ali and DC seem to be a match made in heaven. And I think after a game like this against Dallas, I say it, I hate to be DC in this moment because the Union respond well after these kinds of losses. They do not this season. They don't sit back and go, oh, poor me. It's like Jim said, you know what? We gotta step up. Next game up. He said, Dallas, yeah, you know what? It happened. You gotta move on.
Yeah.
And I think that shows like the Union understand. They just, you know what? You have a bad game, you shake it off, you move on to the next game. The Union have done a very good job of shaking off poor results.
That's why I feel confident going into this game because of just the track record after these losses and going into a place like DC struggling, Wayne still trying to get things on. The thing, to think that Wayne could save this team and get him in the playoffs. I mean, Eastern Conference is pretty competitive, especially like at that tail end of that playoff line. I mean, there's like 4 or 5 teams competing for 2 spots essentially. And it's going to be tough for DC to try to make a run, and it'd probably have to start on Saturday, but it's not going to be easy against us as well, man.
I mean, if Wayne's better watch out. Who knows? Ernst and Jim might have Rebecca Vardy sneaking in on the sidelines, continuing the Wagatha Christie trial. Listen, Ernst ain't about ain't above going in that little deep vein of social media treasure trove.
Absolutely, man. All right, Justin, what do you see this lineup looking like Saturday night?
So I think the biggest change, at least for me, the back line is going to be Olivier back in. I think we saw that with the last game. DC's a team that, Olivier comes in when you have a team that you can break, on the counter and really be expansive about. And I think we've seen with teams like this, Olivier has the room to stretch and be able to get in and get those crosses in. And I think this is a game that, again, will show that this is the type of team that Olivier can come in. I genuinely wonder if El Brujo goes back to the bench. I know it's not going to happen, but after that game, I just don't know. My preferred lineup in the midfield would be back to Leon at the 6, McGlynn on the left shoulder, Ali on the right, and Gazdag on as the 10. Realistically, it's going to be the same midfield as it was in Dallas, and then up top, it's going to be Carranza and Uwa. I think hopefully Corey's injury is not as bad as we think.
Yeah,
we don't know. I haven't heard anything to see, but I mean, even with Brujo in there, I still think the Union are going to walk away with a victory. It's tough to picture them not walking in, especially after that game in Dallas, and not walking with at least a point.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough decision here, and this is what we're gonna have to talk about every week for at least for these next couple matches. It's because I like I said, I think for majority of the matches, like Miglin has to be at that left shuttle midfield. You just see the difference of how the attack is when he's in there and when he's not. It's just gonna be what do you decide? Like, what do you do with Leon? What do you do with Brujo Martinez? You know me, I'm gonna roll with Brujo for this one. I know it's tough, but. And I think it's going to be important for both these two to not only make their imprint on the pitch, but how important and how much stock Jim puts into practice and training. So it's important for those guys to keep up in that aspect as well. And Ua obviously had again, like you said, you know what Burke's going to do. So obviously Ua is going to get a lot of run. We'll see. So I think on Saturday he played 70 minutes against Chicago, right?
Yeah, I mean he got a
played.
decent he got a decent run out, and I mean, I know it wasn't much time, but I liked Chris Donovan in as that sub. I think the kids showed well. You have that depth. You have you have options.
Provide
So
some energy.
you're missing Corey, but you have a lot of that impactful energy off the bench. So I think worst case scenario, you do like you did the last time. If you're up a few goals, you bring in the kids and just ride it out, press it out. You press to ride it out. Like,
press it out.
it's one of those games where like you shouldn't be able to press that time and be able to cruise out a game, but that's what the Union did, and it's obviously not going to be the same scoreline. But the Union will definitely. I think there's little doubt as to why they shouldn't be able to walk away with 3 points.
Absolutely, man. What do you think the prediction is?
I'm staying with a 3-1 scoreline. Obviously, not going to be the same scoreline before, but I think the Union, again, Jim Curtin, after a loss, he rebounds, especially against DC. Going into where you have a 2-game home stretch against Colorado and Atlanta, and then following on the road against Red Bull, I genuinely don't think you're not going to lose 2 in a row. Like, especially against DC.
Yeah,
I do not see that. And so again, the conditions in Dallas, hot, sticky, uncomfortable. I mean, you rode that out in Florida and won 2 games, but Dallas, like, I mean, you're not going to have to go on the road to Dallas in the playoffs. Like, I think that's something that like I think overall is got to be a consideration. And again, coming off that tough loss, again, it wasn't a blowout. It was a 1-0 loss, and you had chances, and you just didn't execute. Those games happen, but the Union are able to move on. And I think the biggest key, the Union have to exploit this defense again. This defense is absolutely weak. It is ripe for the taking. David Ochoa has not had a lot of time. He had a lot of issues going on with RSL. There was a lot of drama. If he's a starter, I think the Union are going to pepper him. I think they're going to make his life a living hell. And I absolutely think exploiting that back line and getting right in the face of one of the biggest villains in this league is going to be key. And that's why I see the Union coming away with a victory, because at the end of the day, they have the ability. Again, the biggest thing that the advantage they've had is switching to a hybrid possession counterattacking offense. And with a team like DC, you can afford to sit in and wait till they open up and then exploit them in the counter. The Union did that plenty in the last matchup. I have no reason to think they won't do that again.
I agree, man. I agree. It should be a lot of fun, dude. And I'll be honest, Justin, I wouldn't lie to you if I said that, like, for a split second, I contemplated, like, dude, should I drive down to DC Saturday? It's only like a 2-3 hour drive, man. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can put that over Nat, man. But it's tempting.
I thought about it, but like with going to Red Bull in a few weeks, and
true.
And I got a busy Saturday, so I wouldn't even be able to make that turnaround in anyway. So, plus I might be going down to DC in a few months anyway. If the NWSL Championship's still at Audi Field, I might be heading down there. So I'll be in that area in general.
Okay, all right. Well, there's listen. DC sports are never really fun to go watch, anyways. But for that is definitely a good cause. And with that note, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to close it down here. It's going to do it for another episode of DOOP by the River. I want to give a big shout out to Cheyenne Foster. Thank you so much for coming on in and giving us the perspective of DC United. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already, make sure you guys hit that like button. Subscribe for more DOOP by the River. Of course, you can listen to this wherever you stream podcasts. We're available on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Find us under DOOP by the River Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Justin Rooney, hair plug sponsor Friedberg. Of course, I am El Parcero Philly, and we're telling you guys